Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. I am Ethan. I am here with Pete. We are Films and Stuff. And today we are talking about the stream or skip segment. Pete, how are you today?
I am great, Ethan. How are you?
Everything is good. We have gone through this a lot, but let's recap the rules.
Absolutely. So Ethan has prepared a list of TV shows for me. I have prepared a list of TV shows for him. Every week we randomly select a new TV show for the other to watch. We try to watch at least 2 episodes, if not more. And then based on that, we decide, we give the show a rating, we give it a review, and we decide if it's worth continuing to watch or if we should just call it at that point.
What was your assignment for this week?
So for this week, I had a TV show on HBO Max called Avenue 5.
Sci-fi, right?
Sci-fi. It's a sci-fi comedy. So, I think most people don't generally see that, let's say, those two genres together.
Yep.
It's really, I enjoyed it. I will say I hesitate to give it, up front, I hesitate to give it a must subscribe to HBO Max.
Okay.
But it is a very, very strong mooch in the sense that it is certainly a show that you could have on in the background while you're doing something else, or, if you are extremely a fan of Hugh Laurie, you could watch it and really enjoy it. So
Hugh Laurie is in it. Dr. House, right?
Dr. House. So, yeah, the cast is pretty stellar. You've got Hugh Laurie as the captain of the ship. You've got Josh Gad, who's playing this billionaire, super genius guy.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's also funny. You've got Suzy Nakamura, who, again, if you don't recognize the name, you will certainly recognize the face. She is awesome. She's really, really not just funny. She's very good at deadpan humor. And she plays the straight man in the sense that, when all things are being chaotic and someone offers, some stupid advice, she's the character in the show who will be like, what the F are you talking about? Focus, Then you've got Zach Woods.
Have we seen her in anything else before?
So again, the reason she's maybe not got that level of fame in terms of recognizability,
actress, right?
Is that she's generally speaking, in the shows that I've seen her in, she's generally been support.
Okay.
And it's generally been in smaller TV roles. I haven't seen her in many movies that I can think of off the top of my head. And then the final, let's not say big name. There are other names in there, but the final name that you would recognize, or the final person that you would certainly recognize, is Zach Woods, who I'm guessing most people will recognize from The Office, the U.S. version of The Office.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So also very funny, he's the guy that gets pushed around a lot. He's funny. And the whole show is good. So the premise is that we're in the near future, and this private company launches a luxury cruise liner that goes through space. So it's a spaceship.
So
and the spaceship itself...
Cruises, but in space.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And this is the 5th ship. This is the Avenue 5. This is the 5th ship in this series.
Yeah. And
the company was, I guess, created or, is run by this tech genius / billionaire, Josh Gad. And, of course, as you would expect, almost immediately, the ship journey goes awry. And, the ship changes course through some, mishap. Yeah. And the course correction is very small. It's like 0.2 degrees or half a degree or something like that. But effectively what that means is that the cruise will get delayed by 3 years.
So back to Earth in 3 years.
Exactly. Instead of the, whatever it's supposed to be. I can't remember how many, whatever the number was.
Like Gilligan's Island.
And so it's like Gilligan's Island. It's that's actually quite an apt way of thinking about it, because instead of being stranded on an island in the middle of the Pacific, they're now stranded on a cruise liner in the middle of space.
Okay.
And the whole point is that, of course, then the engineers and all the ship people are trying to figure out how to get home on time. And then what we learned during all of this is that Hugh Laurie, this seemingly competent captain who is hailed as a hero because the story is that he was the guy who saved Avenue 3 from a from some kind of disaster. We learned that he's actually not a captain, and that he's just some incompetent man.
No way.
He was hired by the company only to give passengers comfort because the ship's technology is so advanced. The ship flies itself on autopilot.
So he's just like an actor playing the role of a commander. Captain.
That's exactly it. So, he's exactly that. He's just a figurehead, effectively. And so, what's funny is that nobody on the ship, not just the passengers, but none of the managers, none of the other crewmen know that. And then when he admits it, they all kind of flip out on him, and his position of authority gets diminished almost immediately, right? Yeah. Because he goes from being the superhero captain who saved the day to this punk guy who's basically just an actor, like you said. Yeah. So, funny premise, very humorous, and then of course, one of the funny things that happens in the first episode or the second episode is one of the crewmen dies trying to save the ship, and as a part of the ship going awry. And to prop up morale, everyone's like, we should have a space funeral, etc. But what they don't realize is because Avenue 5, the ship is so big, when they jettison the coffin, it starts orbiting around the ship because the ship is so massive. And then it serves as a visual reminder to everyone.
Oh, man.
Because they can see this coffin just circling the ship the entire time, right?
How many episodes did you watch?
So I saw 3.
Okay.
And it's something that I've added to my watch list. It's not something that's very high on my priority list.
Okay.
And that's what I mean by this saying that this is a mooch, in the sense that it wasn't hilarious enough and intriguing enough for me to have to sit down and watch the entire series.
Yeah.
But I also recognize that, first of all, great visual effects, incredibly good production value, which is what you would expect from an HBO show.
Right.
It's got dry humor. It's situational, but not like a sitcom, which is situational. Think more like Silicon Valley, which is the humor comes from the absurdity of the situation and the absurd responses of the people around them. Not because, someone cheated on someone or someone's, pining after someone. It's not, that's what I mean. It's not got your traditional sitcom elements of humor. The humor comes from just the absurdity of it all. So for some people, that's perfect. That's their cup of tea. For me, it's not that it's not my cup of tea. It's just, it's a little bit like, what's that show we've just watched, with Mythic Quest.
Mythic Quest. I love Mythic Quest, though.
Some of the people say some of the most inane and dumb things, and they hire and behave in such ridiculous ways. That's the same kind of humor. So when you think of when you look at Josh Gad, you get a little bit of a mix of the game developer, like a mix of some of the game developers in Mythic Quest, which is I can't believe people think like this.
Yeah.
So it's a good show. It's just not great enough for me to say you have to subscribe to HBO Max for it. But I will say, if you've got HBO Max, you're doing yourself a disservice by not watching Avenue 5. Okay. And if you have someone who's got a password, I would strongly recommend that, if you're in the mood for a lighthearted comedy.
Oh, it's a strong mooch.
This is a good recommendation for you.
Strong mooch. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like it's actually a pretty enjoyable show to watch. That's not a bad pick that you had this week.
The way I look at it, Ethan, was when I stopped watching, I said to myself, I think this is a show Ethan would enjoy. Maybe not as much as he enjoys Mythic Quest, but I think he would enjoy it because it's got the comedic elements and it's got the sci-fi elements. So I think you should just have a watch through the first episode, and I suspect you will either come out with the same as me, which is to say, it's definitely a mooch, and it could be a contender for a must subscribe, but I just generally think that it's probably
it's a high bar. It's a high bar.
If
you can turn off a show, it's not a must subscribe. I mean, there's a lot of good television out there, but I think that's kind of one of the easiest ways to look at it is if you've got somewhere else to be, if you've got something else to do and you can put it down, or you're not staying up all night to kind of binge them one after another, it's not a must subscribe then.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So that was Avenue 5 on HBO. What are we calling HBO now? HBO Max? HBO Plus?
Yeah, I mean, who knows what it's going to become.
HBO something or another.
HBO's streaming service, whatever it is. It's still Max at the moment, but there are rumors swirling that they want to change it. So to be determined.
All right. I had on Netflix a show called Uncoupled, starring one of our favorites, Neil Patrick Harris, the former
Doogie Howser himself,
the former Doogie Howser, the former Barney from How I Met Your Mother. Right? These are two of his most famous roles, and he was in Matrix Resurrections not so long ago. Although I have no idea what his character's name was in there. So just let's put this in context. I mean, Doogie is, I guess, 50 years old. He was born in 1973. So he's somewhere 49, 51, depending upon, I guess, what month he's born in. So we've known him for a long time. He had 208 episodes in How I Met Your Mother, 97 in Doogie Howser. I'm also forgetting about Starship Troopers. So he is like very well known, I guess. And he now, so it's hard to play a character, right? Because you've got like so many references for someone of this age, like that you've seen in so many different roles. It's hard to play like a new character. So I thought they did something really cool here. He actually plays someone who is kind of a version of himself. So his character's name is Michael. He's a real estate broker in New York City, which puts him kind of in the category where he's wearing a suit and he's a professional, but you're not seeing him in a role that's, completely foreign to what you would expect that he would be doing, if he weren't an actor. And he is in a long-term relationship with his partner, and it's going to be his partner's 50th birthday.
Okay.
So Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, is going to throw his partner a surprise birthday party. But he tells his partner, look, this is just me and you. We're just going to have a nice chill dinner. And during the day, when he's out showing an apartment, he gets a call from like his doorman and says, hey, or his cleaning person, someone who's been in his apartment says, hey, you've been robbed. He's like, I've been robbed? Like, I live in this really swank neighborhood in Manhattan. How did I get robbed? What have they taken? And like, it's really weird. They just took some random stuff, but they didn't take like anything valuable. And he's like, look, that's terrible, but I've got to go to dinner. It's my partner's, birthday. Don't tell him. I don't want to stress him out on his birthday. I'll let him know myself and we'll sort this out when we get home tonight, right? So he meets his partner outside of the restaurant and his partner's like, hey, I got something to tell you. And Doogie is like, yeah, it's going to have to wait until after dinner, and I've got something to tell you as well. And he takes him into the restaurant, and it's a huge surprise 50th birthday party. Right before they go inside, Doogie's boyfriend of 17 years tells him that they were not robbed, that he moved out, and that he's leaving them.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, and that's how this starts. Fast forward a little bit. This show is about how, Doogie kind of copes with a long-term relationship ending. And, first he's kind of in denial. Then he kind of thinks, well, my boyfriend's going through some, 50th birthday issues. He's just going to go on like, he needs like some space or he needs to have a midlife crisis. He'll get it out of his system. He'll be back. And then it becomes apparent like he's not coming back. And Doogie's got to kind of, deal with it. So I watched 2.5 episodes, and here's where I come out on it. It's a very good show. I keep calling him Doogie. Neil Patrick Harris does really some of his finest work. He's very, very believable as a real estate agent who's kind of successful, but has to hustle to deal with a lot of like very unreasonable clients, which seems kind of realistic in New York City, so he doesn't really feel like he's not like this power broker. We've watched Suits and some other shows where like you see people in New York and it's like everything revolves around them, right? They've got everything under control. No big deal, right? We've seen Harvey in Suits and like it's all so easy for him. In this show, it's much more realistic where you show him like really like hustling. And while he may be making a good living and living like a nice life, you see that like it's not without stress and challenges and, everyone's at the whim of a client or a boss, right? So I thought that's really accurately depicted. And then it shows, kind of him and his support network in terms of how he tries to understand this. And I think he does a very legitimate job of, his acting is good. He portrays a lot of insecurities and vulnerabilities, and he just doesn't understand kind of why. And it was so sudden and all these other, really complex emotional things to unbox. He's very good, by the way. The show is not a must subscribe because, to be honest, it's a little bit of a downer. We're just dealing with, one broken relationship. Right. It's not really funny. There's a lot of, he's got a support group of, friends and, there's like some little quips, but to be honest, there's nothing really like funny about it. So I kind of stopped after 2.5 episodes. I have to say I kind of enjoyed the 2.5 episodes, but there wasn't really anything like captivating me. Like, I guess they'll get back together or they won't and he'll move on. It's kind of like a Sex in the City, but, for gay men. His partner, so there's a very good cast, but his real estate partner, like they're kind of a duo, is Tisha Campbell. Do you remember her from Martin?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. And she's a very good sidekick for him to kind of balance him out. But I have to say, whoever put this show together has done her a terrible disservice. They've dressed her up like some type of, honestly, they've dressed her up like some type of clown. Like he's always in like a proper white shirt and like a smart suit. Like he's not dressed like Harvey style, like these impeccably pressed suits. Like, he's got like kind of rumpled white shirts on. Like it shows like he's hustling through the city, how it would look if you're, running from taxi to taxi, showing to showing. But he's always in like a white shirt and like a suit, but no tie. I'm not sure where she is getting this wardrobe from. It's a terrible choice because they're putting her in like all these kind of like black hot pants and like very like aggressive tops and kind of like leather jackets. It's totally wrong, I have to say. And maybe they're trying to make her like the funky sidekick or the crazy sidekick or something. But to be honest, it doesn't work. Like if she was really his real estate partner, she doesn't have to be wearing like these very swish like evening gowns, but you'd expect that she could just kind of wear like a more like a pantsuit that's not quite so loud. I don't know. They've really made her character a little bit terrible, even though she plays a very good sidekick. The way that they've just kind of like dressed her up and like dumbed her down, I think is really a disservice to her. So that was one of the parts that I did not like about this show. But to be honest, that's more of an aside and not a critique in terms of why this is or is not a must subscribe. But it's 8 episodes. It's on Netflix. Neil Patrick Harris does a super good job. I think it's really some of his finest work. Visually, the script, the production, it's all quite good. But for me, the subject is so limited. I mean, this is only about a breakup, really, and kind of a social scene in Manhattan that it just doesn't rise to a must subscribe. But if you're looking to chill out and just like unwind and veg, very good choice if you've got Netflix.
Okay. So this is Mooch, right?
Yeah, this is Mooch.
Here's a question I have for you. Okay, so I get it. It's a Mooch. It's something that we could theoretically watch. What we generally try to do on films and stuff is look at the show on a very I mean, I try to say objective, but of course it's impossible to be objective.
Yeah.
Let's say we look at it in, I can't remember the word for it, but we look at the show in isolation, right?
Yeah.
There are obvious comparisons to other shows. There is news that filters in from other sources about other people, for example, about actors. The Flash movie will undoubtedly also have reference to the fact that Ezra Miller has a lot of legal troubles going on, right? Which for some people will affect the movie. For some people it won't. We, of course, try to be neutral to all of that. We try to look at the film as a film and not as something that's affected by external events. Fine. How does this review of yours change given the fact that Netflix just canceled season 2 and it's done?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. And it's something we haven't really talked about on films and stuff, but it's probably something we need to address. It's been really prevalent, let's say, in the news, in the industry news for the last couple months at least, but a lot of streamers are now canceling a lot of shows, whether that's cost cutting, whether it's tax benefits, whatever it is, they're doing a lot of it. It is getting harder and harder for me personally to then judge a show on its own merits when I know in the back of my mind, or I worry in the back of my mind, hey, is this show going to be around the next season? If it's this good and they cancel it, why should I get bothered to be emotionally invested in it?
I mean, I take your point. That's an interesting way to look at it. But for me personally, it has zero relevance. Or I should say I give it zero consideration. If the show, I don't know, if someone told me it's good and I knew that it wasn't going to be renewed, I'd still watch it based on that recommendation that it was good. And if I liked it after one episode or two episodes, I'd watch the whole season. I mean, I may be absolutely disappointed that, it's going to end or there's not going to be more. But I have to say, every show ends one of two ways, right? There's maybe a few exceptions. It either goes on too long, Westworld, or it doesn't go on long enough. Right? I mean, those are really the only two. I think it's really hard to find a show where it wraps up and you're like, I am full. I don't want more. I didn't want less. It ended exactly at the right time. I think I think it's very hard to reach that balance.
That's probably a handful of shows. Yeah. Mad Men, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
These were a handful of shows. In general, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
But here's the problem, right? I agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly. Where I have problems is, imagine Netflix has just released this new show starring, let's go back in time, right? He's got a new show called about this chemistry teacher who's got cancer. And
Walter White,
Walter White,
okay.
Right? And
Bryan Cranston.
It's a brand new show. Bryan Cranston. Mm-hmm. It's a brand new show, and they've just released the first season on Netflix. It's a smash hit, and halfway through the second season, you're just like, oh man, this is getting better and better and better. All of a sudden, halfway through the season, Netflix says, guys, it's great, but critical smash, fine, but the metrics are showing that it's not worth it. We're calling it quits. Season 2, it ends. You get my point, right? Which is to say, you're not giving in this era now with streamers and this, not reluctance, but like this speed at which that they're ready to cut their losses, I worry that it will have significant impact on shows that could genuinely be considered not just good shows, but excellent shows. I'll give you an example off the top of my head, okay? And this is not the perfect example. Netflix just canceled the second season of 1899.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the first season, and I was going to say that it's a must subscribe. And not only that,
really?
I really wanted to recommend it to you.
Really?
And then they canceled the second season. And at which point, the show is left with an ending, but maybe not an optimal one. And you still don't know what's going on. It feels like a total mystery by the end of it. And now we're never going to know how it ends. And at that point, it's very hard for me to say, Ethan, you need to sit down and dedicate 8 hours of your weekend to finish the 8 episodes of 1899.
I mean, I would still do it if those 8 hours are a valuable 8 hours. But there's, and I'm not going to justify this, but I am going to take the other side of this, which is, it's probably true that a lot of the streaming services have a very short leash. But if that results in better show making, or, I guess something that's frustrating to me, and we've seen this in a lot of shows, is that we've seen that they've taken like 2 or 3 episodes to kind of like get into the groove. For me, this isn't like a football match where you're playing real time and you can get things organized. Get things organized before you start filming, right? And to the extent that you can stop wasting an episode or an episode and a half or even half an episode with some really like miserable exposition or background or just kind of like directionlessness, I think that's good for viewers. I don't have time. Like what we're doing is I think the stream and skip segment is based on the fact that it's really hard to find good shows because a lot of the shows, you're not sure if it's good or not after like 2 episodes. And who has 2 hours to waste to find out whether or not they actually want to do that? I mean, can you imagine if you went to a restaurant and you ordered a meal and like you had to eat like the appetizers before you knew whether or not like the food is going to be any good at the restaurant? That's a joke. And I think the same thing is with streaming services, that maybe this is going to encourage, filmmakers to get to the point a little bit sooner, to make things a little bit more compelling sooner, to try to get their storyline straight sooner, and not just say, well, we've got a whole season, we'll probably figure it out midway through, let's see where it goes, and then, we'll kind of clean this up in season 2. Let's put some pressure on people to give us a better product. That may not be true, but that's a contrarian view to the short leash.
Of course. I understand. Look, we're both playing devil's advocate. I get that. And the solution is probably a happy medium somewhere in between.
That's right.
Yeah, and I can understand that kind of like Netflix, right? Netflix is, the equivalent of McDonald's, which is over 1 billion served, right? Which is, we are here for the masses. We are not here necessarily to win Oscars. We're here to produce as much content for as many people as possible.
Yeah. I think one of the frustrations you have with Netflix that, and I'm going to try to articulate this for you and you tell me if I'm wrong. Right. Netflix spends a lot of money on big name actors and highly publicized films or shows that oftentimes are pretty rubbish. And then what they cut when those things underperform is some of the better independent stuff that just needed like some training wheels and time to get off the ground and to get a larger group of people to kind of realize how good the show was. And I think that's the danger, is that you're cutting the quality that needed a little bit of time to kind of like find a better audience, because Netflix isn't saying the show isn't good. They're saying the numbers aren't there. Netflix will keep the show for 20 seasons even if it's just horrible, as long as there's people watching it, right? So what they really mean is that we just don't have the numbers watching it. It's not quality, good or not good, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Some of the, and we're talking specifically about Netflix here, but I think in
it applies
principle
to
this applies to any platform, which is I'm going to give Kevin Hart $200 million for 2 to 4 movies.
Mm-hmm.
And out of those 2 to 4 movies that he's come out with on Netflix, half of one of them is considered decent, and the rest of them are pretty garbage.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm going to do that is because Kevin Hart is a well-known name, and I have a feeling that even if the movies are bad, I'm going to generate more than $200 million in subscriptions for the service, or continued subscriptions for the service.
Yeah.
And if I don't meet that watermark of $200 million, for the service, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save $200 million by cutting $18.99, by cutting a bunch of these smaller, like you said, independent style films and shows.
Yeah.
Which actually are excellent shows that need a little bit of a runway. They're more marathons than they are sprints. And I think that's what they're doing, which is that, their philosophy, I think, has become more of a high risk, high reward, a high risk, low reward mentality, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, Kevin Hart and The Rock, if you put them in a movie together, generally speaking, you know how that movie's going to come out. Not just critically, not just that, but you're pretty sure that if I spend, for every $10 million I spend on The Rock and Kevin Hart, I'm generating an extra $2 million in revenue, or in profits. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I'm not saying that's what the numbers are, but they must know that metric. They've done so many movies together, and that they know that it becomes a little formulaic. Whereas I think my preference is, okay, instead of giving Kevin Hart $200 million, give him 50, make one movie, and then spend that other 150 and make 10 other shows, or 2 other shows, or 3 other shows, whatever the numbers are, and maybe one of those shows becomes a cult smash hit. I mean, it can't be a cult hit, but cult phenomenon, right? Which then drives 2 things, not just net subscribers, but it also drives other authors and writers and producers to say, hey, if you're willing to take a smaller bet on $10 million on something like $18.99, well, I've got 10 fabulous ideas, and as long as one of those 10 hits, you'll make your money back tenfold.
Yeah. I think you said this doesn't apply only to Netflix, but I think it applies more to Netflix than the other streaming services.
Because it's the biggest one in the town. They're true.
Bigger, and they do have they do cast a wider net, and I think that's part of their churn, which is we got to get a lot of new stuff out there. We've got to keep people engaged. Amazon is very niche, but when they do something, they do it big. HBO is kind of the same way. Hulu is much more niche, and these are the major competitors, which is, they try to do things a little bit more thoughtful, but when they do, they're super, super big, right? Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, Rings of Power on Amazon. So I think Netflix, it doesn't only apply to Netflix, but you're right. It probably applies more to Netflix than it does to other Disney or some of the other streamers.
Yeah.
And Netflix doesn't have, I just mentioned Disney. Disney has its own IP. So again, I mean,
Disney's problem, I think, is something else altogether. And ultimately it comes down to the fact that they've got such a huge library of IP, whether it's through acquisitions or through their internal development over the last 100 years, that I think Disney's problem is, let's not invest in new IP for a low cost. They're just like, let's just keep recycling and churning out the IP we already have. It's a safer bet,
She-Hulk.
and it's cheaper for us. which I have also, I have fundamental problems with that as well.
Yeah, I think the Disney versus Netflix model are so different on a lot of different levels that you wouldn't really see. I mean, like She-Hulk, I'm not sure. Is She-Hulk going to come back for a second season?
No, I think they canceled the second season.
Yeah.
I think they canceled the second season just because it's like, for all its good, I think it damaged more than it helped the Marvel brand.
I have to say, what's the point though of making something public in terms of when you're going to not renew it before the first season ends? Because it seems like you're really cannibalizing it. Is it a courtesy to the cast?
I think it's more for the investors, and I think it's also for the shareholders. Like all of these platforms are now so beholden to their shareholders and their money managers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like on an investor day, you kind of have to let people know that, hey, look, we get it. She-Hulk is causing a flap, and I'm using this as an example. I'm not saying this is the case. This is just the most recent example I can think of. But it's causing a massive flap with hardcore MCU dedicated fans. And that could have a material impact on the next Avengers movie because no one wants to see that nonsense. So we're going to call our losses and cut it now as a way of, calming their fears that, Disney shares are down 10% because of She-Hulk.
But let's say they do that after like 3 episodes, right? Okay, like they make a signal to the market, and I feel like that's done for other reasons beyond just the success of that show, right? It's done to kind of like respond to a backlash, whether or not it's perceived or real. What about like Uncoupled? What about 1899? I mean, I feel like there's no benefit in after 3 episodes, right? Uncoupled isn't like doing great, and they're like, that's it, no second season. I feel like that's undermining it, like you said, for a lot of people that don't need to watch it the first week that it comes out, right? That's a show that, like, to be honest, you could delay that call for a year, and nothing would.
Well, so they did, right? They did. So Uncoupled was canceled just recently, and Uncoupled has been out for a year.
Has it been out for a year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 2020, like an early 2022 show.
Oh man. Oh, it's so disappointing. Neil Patrick Harris is like, I really enjoyed him in that. Not a must subscribe, but I enjoyed him in it.
That's what I mean. And so, I mean, thank you for bringing us back off our tangent, but I think that's and this is something we need to, at some point we'll need to address, is that I prefer shows which have not just a lot of seasons, but have the potential for a lot of seasons because I like getting emotionally invested in a show.
That's right.
Even if it's a sitcom.
You're an emotional investor.
Exactly. And it becomes hard for me to want to invest in a show emotionally if at the whims of Netflix or, HBO or whoever is in charge, they say that, hey, we had a good run, we did 2 good seasons, we're out.
It's been real.
Right? And I only say that because, as you rightly said, Uncoupled, maybe not the best or most amazing show ever, but still a reasonably good watch, and it's a sitcom. Not a sitcom, but like a comedy, right? Which is to say, comedies generally are a little bit more evergreen, right? You can kind of watch them anytime. It's not a big deal. You can pick them up, generally speaking, from anywhere. So they're a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, there's also something strategic about what we're seeing with some of these shows as well, which is if you're going to do 8 episodes, that better be a great 8 episodes, right? And maybe a show like this, you should say, look, this is a comedy, like it's a drama comedy. Let's do 12 and let's wrap it up. Let's just make it a 1 season, but let's make it like a proper 1 season. I think when you do 8, you're jamming yourself in a lot of ways as well, which is you got to go fast. Like things have to change fast every episode. Are you able to do like proper character development? Like it's an episode of 24 where everything's got to be action packed, go, go, go. you may not be able to do the same development and, like captivate people as if you said, hey, you know what? This show may not have legs for more than a season, but let's do a season of like 12 episodes and at least like let it ride and let it, build it the way that it should be built.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing these 12 episode seasons anymore. Everything's like 8, right?
It's very much the British model. Right? It used to be, a successful sitcom or drama in the US was 23 to 24 episodes, became 22-ish.
Yeah.
And that's never been the case in England. In England and in the UK, generally speaking, you were looking at anywhere from 4 to 10 episodes for a season.
4.
Like a mini-series format. And then they'd come back in a year and then they'd do more. You wouldn't be surprised if you saw 2 seasons of a show in a year because they were 8 episodes all in. But there were 2 separate arcs, if you will.
What were the old, like the old comedies like Seinfeld? How many episodes were those like every season?
I think 22. I think it was like a full season was like 22 episodes.
Yeah. I mean, those would run for like 6 seasons, and that was like the equivalent to like 12 now, right?
Or more.
Right.
Yeah.
What do we have for next week? What's our next assignment?
We will both be on Netflix. And speaking of British sitcoms, you will be watching a Netflix sitcom called White Gold.
White Gold.
I know nothing about it except for the fact that it's British and that it is like a comedy.
All right.
And I will be watching Salem on Netflix, and I know nothing.
Oh, sounds like some witches.
Yeah, could be. Could be. So I know nothing about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard of White Gold. I've never even heard of White Gold. Salem, I feel like or maybe it's just kind of like I always think Salem and Salem Witch Trials. Right?
I always think of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, exactly.
Has there ever been like another thing associated with Salem except maybe like menthol cigarettes?
No, and that's a deep cut, by the way.
Right? Like Salem has just like the worst reputation, I think.
Yeah.
Witches and cigarettes.
Films and Stuff does not condone tobacco smoking. Use at your own risk. Please consult with a doctor if you decide tobacco is for you.
Surgeon General's warning. Surgeon General and Films and Stuff warning.
Yeah.
But you know what our next episode is? We're going to talk about a show that has no absence of smoking, Babylon. So please, audience, join us for that breakdown. I'm pretty excited to do it with you, Pete.
I'm looking forward to it. Until then, thanks everyone. Thanks, Ethan.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.